Hello everybody, Asher here from the Comic Theorists, and here today to bring you my full Star Wars The Force Awakens review. In the background we got Jordan playing some game called Severance. Took 2 months to get here. So let's do this. Let's get started. Alright. This movie is phenomenal in every way. I generally try not to bring numbers into the mix, but this was an easy 9.5 out of 10. If you saw it, you get what I'm talking about this. I am a super fan of Star Wars. I'm trying to write this without nostalgia goggles because that's a big thing, you know. From the point of view of a fan, it is great. From the point of view of just a moviegoer in general, it is also great. And I do notice its faults. They are there. There's many, but the goods outweigh the bad. It is a slight rehash of Star Wars. A New Hope. I try not to say A New Hope, but you know, people get it. But the similarities were easy to look past, and frankly, you know, it's not that big a deal to me. There are a few things in the film that I did feel were weird. First of all, Starkiller Base felt rushed, and when it blew up the planets, it did not feel. I didn't feel like I should care as much as I did in A New Hope when it blew up Alderan. It just didn't have that kind of feeling to it. And that's just a tiny little nitpick. I haven't heard very many people say that, so it's maybe just me. I felt like the scene with the rathtars was out of place. It was funny, and it was it was a cool sequence, but I felt like it was something that would be more likely in J.J. Abrams Star Trek series, and I just didn't feel like it was a Star Wars moment. Now the great things. Kylo Ren was awesome. He was a little whiny. But not as bad as past whininess in the Star Wars saga. He was the first bad guy I've seen in a movie in a long time that felt like more than a bad guy. He seemed like a good guy trapped in a bad guy's body. He had depth. He wasn't just the bad guy, you know, defeat him, move on. He had some even more depth than Vader, I think. Dialogue was much better. He seemed like he was struggling to resist the light side, and you know he was a very thick character, and it was nice. Anyways, he did have fantastic character development, and the fact that he is named Ben is cool because Ben Kenobi. So that's cool. You know, makes him so much cooler. Moving on to Finn, he is a great character, and he's, you know, it's really cool to see more of the lives of a stormtrooper. And I've heard he's a really energetic person and is you know, brings good energy onto the set, and he definitely brings that into the movie. He's not my favorite. But he's okay. You know, he's good. He did a good job of what he's supposed to do. Moving on to Rey. She is funny, relatable in some ways, and when she was on screen, it was pleasant. There were a few funny things, some inside jokes. Jordan here understands, right, Jordan?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got our jokes. And she is what really fuels this movie, in my opinion, and is a perfect addition to the next generation of characters. And the fact that she's a girl, I mean, is cool, I guess, because we've always had whiny main characters that were dudes, and she doesn't seem whiny. She seems like she can handle things herself, and that's cool. And there's lack of females in the original trilogy, and in the prequels they tried to bring more back, but it didn't. I don't know. They weren't as prominent, but now main character. Also, by far, my favorite scene in the entire movie, and possibly in any movie ever, maybe, is when they're on the Starkiller base at the end battle, and she, the lightsaber flies, and then Kylo Ren's forcing it, and then she, comes to her, flies past him. That was really cool. I freaked out, and it was really cool. I just smiled, and I felt like a kid again, more of a kid again, younger. I don't know. And now for major spoilers. If you haven't seen it, it's been months. Why not? But go away if you haven't seen it. Han dies. When I was on ifunny, a few days before The Force Awakens hit theaters, and someone thought it'd be funny or a good idea to post a picture on ifunny showing Han's death scene and saying that Han dies by his son, which spoiled it big for me in it. But I guess it is my fault for going on something to do with the internet, with at least a week before. So I guess that's my bad, but still, I was devastated that a spoiler of this magnitude had been dropped on me the day before I was going to see it. Anyway, I saw it coming anyways, and yet when it happened, I still sat there frozen. I actually started crying, no joke, which is the first time I've ever had, I've ever cried in a movie. And I mean full on dripping off my face crying. It was like a family member died. And it felt like part of me died. And when when his emotionless body fell into the chasm below, that's when it really hit me. Han Solo's dead. Now I just want to talk about the best ending in any movie I've ever seen, except for a few classics like the original Planet of the Apes, but I still think this one just kills that one. When Rey and Chewie set out to find Luke, I just want to mention the song that was playing at the end of the Jedi. The song is called The Jedi Steps / Finale. Was the best Star Wars song ever. It was a good mix of epic, and it was kind of calming at the same time, very adventurous, and it was a good mix of the old and the new music. It felt like a part of it, but very different. It was just great. But when Rey climbs the stairs and we see the cloaked figure standing on the ridge, I just smiled really wide because I knew what was coming. I was kind of worried that they wouldn't, because it showed them going into space, and I was so afraid it was going to pull the crawl, but luckily you see the figure standing there, and I was like, oh my god, here it is, we've been waiting. And the figure slowly turns around, and suddenly, Luke. And I was so happy to see him, because the amount of secrecy that surrounded his character before the release was just insane. To recap really quick, I thought this movie had the greatest lightsaber battle, soundtrack, action sequences, acting, and a top-notch balance of old and new Star Wars we grew up with and we know and love. I give this a solid 9.5 out of 10. I would give it a 10 out of 10, but episodes 4 and 5 are still better and are my only 10 out of 10s. I personally believe The Force Awakens and Return of the Jedi are tied at 9.5 out of 10. That was my full review of Star Wars The Force Awakens. So what did you think? Thank you so much for listening. And may the Force be with you.